and welcome. Today we are talking about the power to tolerate. The power of tolerance is probably one of the most basic, maybe even the first one that you will need to develop in your journey to spiritual mastery and to becoming a stable, steady meditator. Tolerance is needed because we have to manage our feelings. Feelings are provoked by sense perceptions, what we see and hear. We have to endure and manage circumstances, environmental situations. Nowadays, everyone is getting affected by the COVID-19 restrictions and the changes and variations in the restrictions which are imposed suddenly and unexpectedly. So tolerance is needed to handle the unexpected, things that we are not ready for, things that we are not willing to have to endure, but yet we do have to manage, we do have to endure. All of us have to live with other people, work with other people, and there are neighbors around in the area where we live, and we do not choose those people, they are just there. And usually everyone's personality is so different that there are often clashes, and sometimes you just have to endure and tolerate the differences in personality types that are around you. You may be a quiet person, others are noisy, you need the fan, someone else doesn't want the fan, you want the window open, someone else wants it closed. There are so many small things that add up and can easily create an emotional reaction. But why does a person learn to meditate and engage in a spiritual practice is so that we can acquire the powers to be so flexible that we are not put out or disturbed when something is going on that really doesn't suit us. So the power of tolerance gives us this flexibility, and it is something that you accumulate slowly over time. So if you're just beginning meditation, don't imagine that you will have mastery of all these powers very quickly. It takes time. These are powers that are cultivated in the circumstances of everyday life, and as we grow and mature, our powers and virtues also grow correspondingly. We also need power to handle our own selves, because on the inside of our beings there are sometimes eruptions of unexpected feelings. We become sometimes fragile, sometimes vulnerable, sometimes there is a feeling of anger and frustration because of things that are going on around which trigger internal weaknesses. And when we're talking about powers, it's not just only specific powers that we're looking at in the series, but it's an overall accumulation of inner personal power which is applied in different circumstances, and the application is given the name of one power or another power, but overall behind all of the powers is pure spiritual power. And everyone begins in a relatively depleted state, so the build-up of personal spiritual power definitely takes time. We must also have patience with ourselves and with the people around us and not give up. Spiritual practice ultimately is something lifelong, and so whenever in your life is the moment that you begin, from then on you are accumulating and accumulating. Power is also energy, and energy gets expended quickly and easily. So in the process of accumulating power, we must also learn to conserve that power, conserve our spiritual energy. So that conservation of energy occurs as we become skilled in the use of the powers, and it becomes rapid. On the one hand, you have a provocation, which would produce an upsurge or eruption of an emotion, and we need to apply that power to that emotion so that we can contain it and hold it and allow that feeling to move through us without it being unbearable. So the power of tolerance means that we're able to raise the bar on our threshold of pain, our threshold of endurance. Sometimes we have to tolerate other people's behavior. Sometimes we have to tolerate actual physical pain. Every so often, everyone has a headache, maybe some illness is there, and it's the way of the world. We have to get through it. And whenever we are not well, then our levels of sensitivity are much more acute. And so if we have the power of tolerance at such a time, then we're able to get through feeling low, feeling bad, feeling upset, feeling feverish, feeling things like inability to sleep, difficulties with eating, difficulties with drinking. There are so many difficulties that happen to people in the area of their health, and the power of tolerance is really helpful in enabling us to get through these periods of time. It's easy to get an injury, you might get cut, you might get burned, there's physical pain. One of the things that happens in the conditions of the restrictions associated with the COVID-19 is that a lot of tension builds up within the home because people are sort of imprisoned in their home with the other people who are around, and this confinement creates stress, and that can create conflict, and there may be a lot of difficulties around your reactions to conflict or having to see others who are in conflict with each other. And so the power of tolerance is always there to be with us, to let us manage those periods of tension and get past it. Always remember the law of spirituality, which is mentioned very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, that life is made up of circumstances which arise, persist for some time, and that can sometimes be a long time, but ultimately things change and those circumstances melt away, and then something else happens. So for the duration of difficult circumstances, we need to build up the power of tolerance such that you can tolerate for an extended period of time. Sometimes it might even be for several years. You may be in a difficult relationship, a difficult marriage, or as a parent you may have difficulties with the way your children are. They may be very full of opposition to you. You may have problems of communication. You may have to deal with elders who may need a lot of attention. They may be getting old and they have their own issues, and you may find yourself having to take care of a lot of people. And this is the case especially for many women. And so you will need a good power of tolerance to handle those demands and to fulfill the demands, but also you need to know where to draw the line and what you will do and what you won't do. So there's also a matter of setting limits and boundaries, keeping yourself in balance. And sometimes in order to apply the needs that you have to keep your life in balance, you will have to endure the reactions of other people who want more from you than they should have, but they want to use you to take care of them more than you need to. So you yourself have to set that balance and feel that balance intuitively, and then tolerate the energies that are going on around you which want to upset that balance. And that's life, you know. Tolerance is also needed in terms of the environment. We are in periods of climate change, which means that there is extreme weather, and we see that there are droughts, there are hurricanes, cyclones, heavy rain, wind, extreme heat, extreme cold. And all of this puts a big stress on your ability to handle yourself in those environmental extremes or extreme weather events. These are now becoming very widespread, very frequent, and of course they have an impact on the agriculture, which means there's an impact on the food supply. And so then we'd also not only have to tolerate extremes of heat and cold and dry and wet, but we also have to tolerate shortages of food. Maybe also there's an effect on the supply of electricity or gas, the availability of internet services and so on. So all of these are things that are increasing in everyone's lives. We're all impacted by it, and this is why it is so much more important for us to start and begin to build up our powers of tolerance, and the other powers, all the powers work together to enable us to handle worsening situations as well as the unexpected. So when you are fragile in terms of how you feel about being cold, being hot, being dry, being wet, then you suffer more. And having the spiritual powers means that the circumstances will be not improved, and they might even get worse, but your ability to flex with them is gradually and consistently increasing, so that even if the situation is hard and the situation is uncomfortable, too cold, too hot, but your power that you're accumulating is applied to that, so that even on the level of your physical body, you are able to handle your feelings of cold and heat and wet and dry. Other people may not be able to, but you can also be an example without imposing it on other people, because different people have different levels of endurance. And if you are someone who develops this capacity for endurance, capacity for tolerance and handling what comes your way, other people will look at you and they will see that, yeah, it is possible. And you're there in front of them as a person who displays that you have this power of tolerance, and you also let them see that you meditate, and that your meditation and your ability to handle things, provocations, difficulties, pain, distress, is increasing. And this will give them hope, because we cannot take away other people's distress for them. Temporarily, yes, but not in a long-term way. But what we can do is to show them that you can get through this. Keep yourself in your consciousness of being the soul, detached from the body, the detached observer of the drama of life. And the drama can be very beautiful, very horrible, very interesting, very boring, full of people, very lonely. There's so many different things, and circumstances keep on changing. And the power of tolerance means you adjust and flex with them. There's also the power of adjustment that we will also be looking at. So let us look for a moment at practice of meditation that helps us to draw this strength and apply it to circumstances where we really need to tolerate and endure. Take a couple of breaths. Turn the attention within and feel yourself as a soul, spark of light in the center of the forehead. Go to your original condition. The dharma of the soul is to be at peace, still, quiet, calm. Feel the difference between yourself, the being of light, and your body, your material costume, the instrument through which you feel things. I, the self, am not my eyes. My eyes are like cameras. Through my eyes I see scenes, and through my ears I hear dialogue. But I myself am quiet and calm. The scenes may be dramatic. There may be upheaval. There may be threats. But behind that, I, the self, and calm. I am on a different plane, another level, the level of soul consciousness. I'm connected with the world of light and with the Supreme Being, my source of strength, my companion as I move through the scenes of life in this world. The company of my companion is itself great strength. I'm concentrated on that light, open to that energy, and that energy streams into me. I absorb. I feel the glow and brilliance of that energy within me. And I'm ready to manage the challenges. I am never alone, always connected. Always close to my essential strength and purity. Gently I connect to the body while still being connected to that light. I am ready to participate in the scenes of the world, still connected with that light. One moment in deep silence, and the next moment participating in the world, acting, and sometimes dealing with the challenges. I handle provocation. I manage stress. I handle physical, emotional pain. I let it move through me. I do not resist. I do not suppress anything. I stay on my seat of self-respect. Om Shanti.